These are the foot phalanges. These belong to an adult individual and they're from the right side of the body. So just like in the hands, we have 3 rows of phalanges. We have the proximal row, this one here. There's the intermediate row here. And then we have the distal row here, making up the points of the toes. As with the hand, there are 5 proximal phalanges, 4 intermediate phalanges, and 5 distal phalanges. And that's because the first metatarsal and metacarpal doesn't have an intermediate phalanx. The proximal and the distal articulate immediately together. So looking at these phalanges, we can immediately see that the first, so the ones that belong to the big toe, are quite distinct compared to the others. So they're much, much bigger and much, much chunkier. So for the first phalanges, it's a bit more easy. Just by looking, you can tell which is the proximal and which is the distal. So the proximal, like the hand phalanges, having that single articular surface where it articulates with the head of the metatarsal in this case. And then the distal end here having that kind of double shape, which articulates with these 2 joint surfaces here on the distal phalanx. And then of course the distal end is rounded in this tubercle that makes up the point of the toe. And then it's really quite similar for the other phalanges as well. So in the proximal row, so these look a little bit longer, sometimes quite a lot longer than the intermediate phalanges. But if you look at that proximal articular facet, you can put the tip of a finger in it because it's that nice concave single surface. Whereas if we look to the intermediates, just like in the hands, they've a bit small on a smaller scale, but you can feel it with a finger. You've got 2 distinct surfaces there on either side where it articulates with the end of the proximal phalanx. So you're feeling for that double joint surface here. So that's kind of a second intermediate phalanx, but more often than they're not, they look a little bit more wizened, almost like someone's cooked something for too long and it's just been left in a frying pan. So they more often than not look like this, just a tiny short little bit of bone, but you still should be able to feel that double joint surface on the proximal side. And then the distal phalanges should hopefully be recognisable by the fact they end in a tubercle when someone hasn't sawn a hole in them to articulate them for display. If we look, so at this one, you can see that rounded tubercle on the end. On this one here, it's a bit long, a little bit wider, but it ends in the same kind of non-articular tubercle shape.